Hello students, I welcome all of you to this wonderful session of animal tissue, and as I said in my previous video that in the upcoming video we'll be discussing about types of neurons, so here it is. Now we'll be discussing about types of neurons on the basis of their function and on the basis of their structure. Please don't forget to leave a like on a video, and if you want to stay connected with us then don't forget to subscribe and press the notification bell so that whenever I upload any video then you will be notified. So let's proceed, and before proceeding let's take a quick look on the structure of a neuron. So here it is. Now as I said, these small processes emerging out of the cell body, they are dendrites, and this is the cell body, also called soma. Let me write it. And this structure, it is nucleus of the neuron, and this long process, this is axon, and these yellow structure, and they are Schwann cells. They are not actually yellow, they are shown here in yellow shades so that we can recognize them very easily. And these are axon terminals. Don't forget the function of axon. What was the function of axon? It was the transportation of impulses and other substances as well, like protein and hormones. Two types of transportation we have read yet, and those are anterograde and retrograde. Now what is retrograde? Retrograde transportation is the transportation of substances from the axon terminals to cell body, and anterograde is the transportation of substances from the cell body to the axon terminals. Example of retrograde transportation is rabies virus. That is very important, don't forget that. Now let's proceed. Types of neurons on the basis of their structure. Now let's take a look on the variety of neurons here. We can see unipolar neurons, we can see bipolar, pseudo-unipolar, and multipolar. Now unipolar neurons. Now unipolar neurons and bipolar neurons, these two neurons, they are sensory neurons. And what is sensory neurons? We'll discuss about that. Unipolar neurons, they have a long process emerging out of the cell body, and unipolar and bipolar neurons, they both are very rare in the human body. Unipolar neurons, they are present in the spinal cord, and if we talk about the bipolar neurons, they are present in the rods and cone in the retina of an eye and the olfactory receptors. Both of these neurons, they are very rare. And if we talk about pseudo-unipolar, it is present in the dorsal root ganglion of spinal cord. Why do we call it a pseudo-unipolar? Because it appears to be bipolar, but it is not. It only have one process with a cell body situated to its one side, but in the bipolar neurons have two processes separated by the cell body. Now multipolar, majority of the neurons in a human body are multipolar. These they work in the central nervous system of the human body. Unipolar neurons, they are more common in insects, and the receptors of these kind of neurons are located within the skin, joint, and muscles of internal organs. And such neurons have long and terminating neurons, and they are present in the spinal cord, as I said. But as I said, pseudo-unipolar neurons, they are present in the dorsal root ganglion of spinal cord. What is dorsal root ganglion of spinal cord? Let me show you in this picture. Don't be confused with these technical terms. Those of you who already know them, very great of you. But those who are new to this session and they don't know anything about neurons, don't be panic, you'll learn. So now, what is dorsal root ganglion of spinal cord? Dorsal root ganglion of spinal cord, it is also known as the spinal ganglion or the posterior root ganglion. It is the cluster of neurons in a dorsal root of spinal nerve. The cell body of sensory neurons, known as first order neurons, are located in the dorsal root ganglia, as you can see in this picture. This part, it is called the dorsal root of the ganglion. Dorsal root ganglion of spinal cord, sorry. Now I hope it is clear to you. Now there is another type of neuron called anaxonic neurons, And axonic neurons, they have multiple processes, but the axon of those neurons cannot be distinguished from dendrites. The location, they are very rare too, like unipolar and bipolar neurons. But if I get the location of those neurons, I'll inform you about that. Now let's proceed. Types of nerve on the basis of their functions. Now, if we talk about the function of neurons, then there are mainly two types of neurons, and these are motor neurons and sensory neurons. So, what is motor neuron? The motor neuron, or it is also called motor nerve, they are responsible to send signals or impulses all the way from spinal cord and brain to all the muscles of the body. Like it is impossible for an organ to perform its function without any impulses sent by the brain. So all the impulses which are sent to the muscles to perform their functions by brain, they are transmitted by motor neurons. The impulses enable humans to carry out basic activities such as talking, walking, drinking water, blinking eyes, sitting, sleeping, etc. Damage to the motor neuron can cause muscle weakness. Now, note this point. Damage to the motor neuron can cause muscle weakness or shrinking of the muscle too. The nerve that passes from the lower back to the buttocks is known as the sciatic nerve. Now, what is sciatic nerve? Let me show you a picture. This is the sciatic nerve. The sciatic nerve enables the complete leg to move, which is a collection of various nerves. A few of these motor nerves function in the hamstring, feet, thighs, and feet. So keep in mind that sciatic nerve is the example of motor neurons, and they are more example like cranial nerve, etc. So I hope motor neurons are clear to you. What is motor neuron? A motor neuron is a neuron whose cell body is located in the motor cortex or brainstem of the spinal cord, and they transmit impulses from the spinal cord or the brain to the internal organs to perform their functions. Now, motor neurons, they are also further divided. There are two types of motor neurons, which are upper motor neurons and lower motor neurons. Axons from upper motor neurons synapses into interneurons. Now, what are interneurons? I'll tell you that. Axons from the upper motor neurons, they make synapses to the lower motor neurons, and they also synapse to the neurons of spinal cord also. Types of motor neurons will include alpha motor neurons, beta motor neurons, and gamma motor neurons. Now, these are the types of lower motor neurons, by the way. So, now let's take the sensory neurons. In simple language, it is the opposite to those motor neurons. The sensory neurons, what is the function of them? They transmit impulses from the tissue to the spinal cord and brain, so that brain can react in the response to any injury or anything, you can say, like pain and temperature, etc. The sensory neurons, they gather information such as pressure and temperature from the sensors that are present in the muscle, skin, and other internal organs, which in turn redirect it back to the brain and spinal cord. These sensory nerves have the potential of communicating information relating to motion, except for the eyes, as they themselves do it. Damage to sensory neurons can cause numbness. Now, what is numbness? Numbness, it is a symptom in which a person it loses the feeling in the particular part of the body. वो कहता है ना पैर सुन हो गया, वही है ये numbness. So, damage to the sensory nerves can cause numbness, pain, tingling sensation, and hypersensitivity. So, it is very important point. So, you better write it down to your notebook. And the example of sensory neurons will include those bipolar and unipolar neurons which were present in the spinal cords and retina, of the eye and olfactory receptors, etc. Now there are another type of neurons called autonomic neuron, which has a system called autonomic nervous system, which controls the action of the muscles of the heart and such smooth muscles located in the stomach and in the interlining of the glands and other organs as well. The autonomic nerves, what is the function of them? They regulate the functions that are not under control, or we can say involuntary. There are two functional division in the autonomic nervous system, namely the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for the heart rate to speed up, and the parasympathetic nervous system, it controls activities such as excretion, digestion, and related metabolic actions, etc. Now, let's come to the cranial nerves. Now, what are cranial nerves? These are 12 pair of nerves that emerge from the lower side of the brain. The example of cranial nerve will include olfactory nerves, optic nerves, oculomotor nerves, trochlear nerves, and the trigeminal nerves, the abducens nerves, facial nerves, vestibulocochlear nerves, glossopharyngeal nerves, vagus nerve, spinal accessory nerves, and hypoglossal nerves. So these are 12 cranial nerves, and these are very important in smell, vision, movement of the face and eyes, and the tongue, and also it is important for salivation. And we'll discuss more about the cranial nerves in our upcoming lectures. All you have to do is to stay connected with us, and if you want to learn all the names of these cranial nerves, then there is a trick for it. Just stay connected to us and you'll get the trick for it to remember it in a better way, so you'll never forget it. Now there's another type of neuron called relay neuron. They're also called association neuron. Now what is the main function of these neurons? They connect two neurons to each other. That is the main function of relay neuron. We don't have to read more about them. That was the main function of it. Now let's come to the function of nervous tissues. What is the main function of tissue? To generate impulses and carry out them. They produce electrical signals that are transmitted across distances so that they can interact with all the organs of the body, and they do it by secreting chemical neurotransmitters like dopamine. They respond to stimuli, and what are stimuli? They are the changes in the external environment. They provide electrical insulation to the nerves, and they remove debris. Now there is a question for you. If the nervous tissue can remove debris, then okay, debris, they are wastage. If the nervous tissue can remove debris, then which cells of the nervous tissue are capable of doing it? Now if you have watched our previous lecture, then it will be very easy for you to answer this question. So comment down. And another function of the nervous tissue is to carry messages from the other neurons to the cell body. Now that is it for today. I hope you have learned something new from this lecture. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and share this video to those who don't have access to the education right now because of the lockdown in India. Just stay safe, stay at home, and we are here to help you. Bye.